What's up, everybody? Welcome to Mongols Pregame'n Edition. This is where we spend some time talking with the team prior to their next match, or in this case, season. Joining me today is an RDA alum who at Hofstra was named the Colonial Athletic Association Player of the Year twice, named to the conference's first team 3 times, was on the watch list for the Herman Trophy, and holds the record as the school's all-time assist leader while being 6th all-time in goals. She now also holds the new record for being the first ever Riveters player on this show. It is Sabrina Bryan. Sabrina, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I got to ask, out of all of the awards and accolades you've received, which are you most proud of? It's got to be this show, right?
And that's definitely up there for sure. I think I'd have to say being an All-American. I didn't go to a Power 5 school, so I honestly didn't even think that was a possibility for me. So that was never a goal that I ever had for myself. So it was pretty surreal getting that.
Yeah, that's great. Kudos to you for sure. You obviously grew up in the area, part of the RDA, went to school. Now you're back and be playing with the team. Give, listeners and watchers sort of a 30,000-foot view of who you are.
Yeah, so I went to Canon Mac High School. We won the state championship my senior year there. My junior year is when I committed to Hofstra University, which is in New York on Long Island. So I went there and had a pretty great 4 years. Couldn't complain. I had the time of my life there. And then COVID happened my senior year, and our season was cut short. We had about half the time we usually had. Usually we had about 20 games. We had 9 my senior year. So I was granted another year of eligibility, but I decided not to take that. And I went to Slippery Rock for grad school. So I came back home and I got my doctorate in physical therapy. And my last year of grad school is when I started coaching at South Fayette High School. So I'm currently the assistant coach there, and I'm going into my 3rd season now with them.
That is awesome. I want to pick your brain here in a little bit about coaching and how it may or may not have sort of shaped who you are as a player now. But first, you mentioned how you sort of grew up here. You grew up in the RDA. I'm curious, kids in the RDA now have they have this experience where both on the women's and men's side, they're going to have a team that they can look up to and potentially play for. Just putting yourself back in the shoes of, yourself when you were in the RDA, what would it have meant to you to have the Riveters to kind of like look up to at this point?
I would have loved to have a women's team to look up to. Since that wasn't an option, I was a full supporter of the Riverhounds since before I was even in the RDA. I actually went to watch them when they played at the Wild Things Park. So that's when I first started watching the Riverhounds, followed them when they went to Chartiers Valley High School, and we were season ticket holders as soon as that Highmark Stadium was open. So I've been watching them my whole life. So to have been able to have a women's team would have meant so much to me. It would have been something for me to aspire to be able to do myself one day.
Yeah, for sure. Well, now obviously they do exist, and you are part of this historical inaugural squad. I'm curious, there's a lot of emotion that can go on with this. Where do you fall on that spectrum of like pinching yourself in disbelief and like freaking out over the weight of it all?
Yeah, it's definitely depends on the day for me. I still can't believe it's a thing. I've been waiting for this my whole life. I didn't think I'd ever have the opportunity to do something like this in my hometown. But as soon as I saw that they were joining the Women's League, I remember I reached out to Scott and I was like, how can I be a part of this? And little did I know at the time he was the head coach.
Yeah.
So he told me, kind of full circle moment, I'm the coach. So, get into shape and show me what you can do and we'll talk about it. So from the day I stepped on the field at the invitational tryout, I was very excited, and it hasn't really come down from that yet.
When you made that initial call to Scott, were you thinking maybe be involved as a player, or were you think you'd be involved in some other way?
I was thinking as a player, but I wasn't dead set on that. I thought to myself, if things don't go the way I want them to, I can be a coach. Maybe we can talk about that. But player was my first choice. Coach was second. But
yeah, you mentioned Scott said, get in shape. Here we go. What has the training been looking like for you as you get ready for the season?
Yeah, once I got invited to be on the team, it's been pretty nonstop for me. I am training soccer-wise about 2 to 3 days a week. And then on top of that, about 5 days a week of weightlifting and conditioning. So I've been pretty nonstop on that aspect.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Many of the players are still in college. They're not, available to train and sort of gel with you and other players together. How do you think you guys overcome something like that? Do you see that as a challenge, or how do you think about that?
Yeah, I definitely think that's going to be our biggest obstacle is that we won't have much time together before we actually have to start playing. So I think one thing that's good for us is so many people on the team have the background of having the RDA, having Scott as their coach. So we have a really similar foundation for how we were all brought up as players. So I think that's going to be really big for us. But I think just from day one, we're going to need to work on that chemistry. That's going to be our biggest obstacle.
Yeah. The season is relatively short. It's more of a sprint than a marathon. Has that factored into your approach to training at all? Like, I don't even know how I would approach something like this. I'm just wondering how much you've thought about that.
Yeah, so it definitely is short, but that hasn't changed how I've been training, but it's changed how I mentally have been thinking about it.
Hmm.
But in my mind, we're going through May, June, and I plan to go through July with this team too. So I'm hoping to go very far. And I've really just been trying to make sure I take things day by day. I'm so happy to be a part of this team, and I know I'm very lucky being out of college. It's not very normal for someone to be on a women's team like this.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to take every second I can, take it in stride, and just be happy I have the opportunity.
That's awesome. We mentioned, you were coaching at South Fayette. I'm curious, do you find that being a coach has sort of changed the way that you approach the game as a player? And a personal example, I played all through high school and then basically went back and started coaching at the youth level and was a coach for many, many years. And when I went back to play, I found myself as a better player because I thought differently. Do you find that that same thing is happening, or as a coach, are you still more experiencing thing as a player and just continuing to develop that way?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think about the game differently now. I think when I was a player, not having coaching experience yet, I was pretty kind of like one way thinking. And I would have to go back, look at film, talk to coaches, kind of get, a well rounded approach that way. But now, having been a coach and having to look at the whole field during a game, now I think as a player, I'm more well rounded in that aspect. I kind of know what's going on in the field more. I'm not as kind of one way, and I'm just trying to like look at everything, watch the play develop, see what I have to do in terms of that.
Yeah. I'm curious. So, with your coaching hat on, can you provide any sort of assessment of where you think the USLW is? Or I know it's tough because the teams may have a lot of turnover from year over year, but even, other teams in the Great Forest Division, just any sense in general on how you think maybe the Riveters will stack up and just an assessment on the USLW?
Yeah, so with our Great Forest division, it's pretty tough to assess everyone because I think only Cleveland Forest is the team returning. Everyone else is new.
Yeah.
So it's hard to get a good kind of background of all the teams. But this area, New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, we're known for having good soccer players come out of here. So I definitely have my eye on Cleveland Forest. I know they're going to be the team with a target on their back in this division since they know what to expect. But in terms of, we have FC Buffalo, they're going to bring some good girls to the table too. So we definitely just need to keep our eye open. Don't take any team lightly, but just go out there and show everyone what we have.
Yeah. In a little more than a month, you're going to be stepping onto Highmarks Field in the first game ever for the club. What are you most looking forward to as the season fastly approaches?
Probably the atmosphere. Like I talked about before, I'm such a longtime supporter of the Riverhounds, and I'm so used to being in the stands, watching the games. Now I'm on the other side of things. I'm the one on the field with the stand behind me. So I think just being able to feed off that energy and be on in that atmosphere with such a high crowd, it's going to be an awesome experience.
Yeah. I guess this is a good moment to plug. I think what regular or individual game tickets go on sale today. So there you go. If
Yes,
you're
they
if you're
do.
itching to go get tickets, get there, especially for the home games. I think the way that the schedule is set up, it's great. You guys, all the home games are on weekends, so people can get there. It is fantastic. Sabrina, this has been great. I appreciate you taking the time to chat with us. Best of luck as you continue preparing for the season. We literally can't wait for you and the Riveters to take the field at Highmark.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited for this season.